2000. Sorry. I'm going to call to order the December 6, 2023 Katuitt Fire District Prudential Committee meeting. We'll do a roll call. Seth Burdick.
Present.
Mark Lynch.
Here.
Ray.
Here.
Fran Parks present. Charles absent. He had another commitment tonight. We do the Pledge of Allegiance. Working on the flag. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If anybody has a cell phone or a phone, please turn it off. Is there any public comment?
I don't see any chat yet or hands raised.
Okay. All right. First thing is the cell tower lease.
So here's what this is about. I'll lead with the recommendation, which is that I recommend that we sign the document that is being proffered, and here's why. So this relates to a ground lease where we are the of the property at 414 Main Street. It's where the old tank used to be, and we have leased the ground to a company that has put up a cell tower there. They're giving us monthly rent of $4,057 a month. It started back in May of 2017, and it's a 5-year lease with 4 possible renewals for 5-year period. So it's an very extended lease, and that amount goes up 3% a year. So what is happening is the company with which we signed the lease agreement is being acquired by another company as part of a very large deal involving 59 different cell tower leases. This company is in the business of cell towers. Out of those 59, we are the only lessee that has a right of refusal in this event. So they are very much focused on us. We need to approve this transaction, which importantly cannot be unreasonably withheld. So the question is, is there any reason why we should withhold our consent? I've been working with our attorney, a guy by the name of Rick Mann, who was originally involved in the 2017 lease. And essentially there were 2 possible issues that we needed to look at. One was there's a surety bond in the event that they no longer want to have a cell tower there. The surety bond is in an amount hopefully sufficient to pay for the removal of the tower. And the other issue was the original entity with the lease had a guarantee of payment provision, which was kind of a belt and suspenders. Obviously, they're required to pay the amount under the lease. After a fair amount of discussion, actually, the new entity that is acquiring all these leases is not going to give us a separate guarantee. They are still obviously on board for required to pay the lease every month. The conclusion was that since we have a duty to not unreasonably withhold consent, we should in fact consent. And that's the comfort we take from that is twofold. One is that the acquiring company is a substantially larger company than the one that currently holds the lease. And this deal is part of a 59, lease deal, meaning there are 58 other sources of income under this package, so to speak. So that's probably more than you wanted or needed to hear, but we think that we are adequately financially protected, and that this is a deal that we should consent to. Any questions?
No.
Not for me.
Okay. I then move that we, let me make sure I get the correct name of this document. I move that we enter into the estoppel and consent relating to the cell tower lease. Seconded.
All those in favor?
Second. Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Fran Parks, aye. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll talk to Jen and I'm happy to sign on behalf of the Prudential Committee, and we'll get that to them in the next day or two.
I actually had signed it before you, so I don't know if she wants a new signature or not. But you can ask her. She might want a better signature than I gave.
Well, signature may have been premature. So if I think we just agreed that the document should be signed. So
Okay, so go ahead.
I'll check with Rick, but it's probably cleaner for us to take the vote and then have someone sign. So I'll sign or re-sign as the case may be.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
So, next is engaging is that me?
We can't hear anything.
Oh,
We can hear you, but nothing else.
Oh, okay. So I contacted the procurement officers organization of Massachusetts to see if we could find someone who would be willing to do procurement for us in terms of filling out the forms. And I had one response from a gentleman named Tom Watkins. He's currently the Public Works Business Manager and Chief Procurement Officer for the city of Newburyport. And he would he's over 15 years of experience and would be able to do this for us. He would charge $75 an hour.
And specifically, what are we thinking of asking them to do?
Well, the first thing that we need is a request for quotes for demolishing the school. So that would be the first thing. And then
well, hang on, let's Ray's email of today suggests that we need to do a request for proposal before a request for proposal.
no.
That is, that's not the case.
When you hire it's different when you hire an architectural firm. It's not a RFP, it's a rest for quote or some, but anyway, it's the same process essentially. And then that architectural firm will be the ones that make do the RFP for us. That's
But- And just to be clear, the architectural firm, we don't need to do a request for proposal for,
no, we do.
we
We
do.
need to do a request for quotes and go out and put it out to three firms,
3 architectural firms.
3 architectural firms, correct? Right, Ray? You know something different?
Fran, the way that Amber described it, the cost of the RFP or RFQ, if you want, to solicit bids for the demo was something that cost over 50,000. The town was able to avoid an RFP because they have a facility under Chapter 149 called Architects on Call. And that is not something that is available to us because we have qualified for that. So we would have to do, as I understand it from Amber, we would have to do an RFP to get someone to prepare the RFP for demolition.
That's right, and that's architects do that.
So,
Right.
No, we could hire this gentleman to do, we'll call it an RFP for architectural firms to hire them to do the RFP for the demolition of the school. You have to do 2 things.
You have to go through the RFP process, which means soliciting bids, doing the bid evaluation, et cetera. At least that's the impression I got from Amber.
I
My
think we're
question
saying
for
the
this
same thing,
remains,
right? Let's just make sure, Fran, you're saying that this gentleman, Mr. Watkins, could put together a document that will seek RFPs from architects.
Right.
And then
Yes.
those will pick one of those architectural firms and they will do an RFP to demolish the building.
Okay, all right. Then I misunderstood.
That's what the fire department has currently done. They made up an RFP or an RFQ, request for quotes, put it out, got one answer, and then Catalyst will be doing doing their architectural work and will be the one getting the request for quotes for doing that. So so I don't think, usually, I believe when we got the request for quotes for the space needs, it was $25,000 to do that. So I don't, I'm not sure how much just doing the request for quotes. Well, no, I do know. How much did the fire departments spend for their request?
You mean the one that resulted
27,000.
in the Catalyst proposal?
Yeah, that ended up with that, but was it $14,000?
Let me
Lisa,
look that up.
what was the invoice for?
We've just made the down payment of 5,000, so that's only part of this.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
something else, Lisa. That's
Yeah.
the first 5,000 of the
Yeah, but-
27,000.
They didn't pay anybody for the request for quotes that went out because they cobbled it together themselves. My understanding, the fire chief, Kevin,
I think they also only received one proposal back.
yeah, one
Yes.
response, right, yeah. So-
Okay, so
So if you, so that's my question. Do you want to go ahead with that? And you want to add other things to that, like, the request from the fire department or fire commissioner of evaluating the school to see if um, it would be suitable to rehabilitate into a fire station, or um, question about a community center at the school, or the question about chopping off the school and just saving the auditorium.
A couple things. I sent an email earlier this week. Kevin Conley and I had a conversation. I want to make sure that he and I are tracking. Basically, he said that Catalyst will be able to be done with phase 1 of their project by the end of January, they hope, which Kevin indicated was the feasibility assessment. I looked at the Catalyst proposal today, and phase 1, actually the feasibility assessment comes at the end of phase 2. So I'm not sure if Kevin and I are just miscommunicating. I had the impression from him that Catalyst would have an answer to the feasibility assessment by the end of January, hopefully. But he used the term phase 1, so we may be miscommunicating. I'm a little reluctant to ask someone to do a proposal, can we turn this into a firehouse, if Catalyst is going to say, yeah, you can build a firehouse on High Street, such that we won't need to undertake that assessment. With regard to the others, that is, should we look to see what it would cost to be a community center? Should we look to see what it would cost to be a gym? I'm not inclined to do that, only because we've already done that, or we've had that done for us with the Habib report.
Yeah.
And there are criticisms of the Habib report, but I don't know why we would redo that. If we wanted to kind of pick out the parts of the Habib report which might be unnecessary because they relate to returning it to a school state, I suppose we could do that if we had sufficient interest in turning it into a community center.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because the proponents of the community center seem to think that the level of what needs to be done at the school is considerably lower than, if it was turned back into a school. And my concern is that it's a municipal building, and I don't think that I don't know because it's a municipal building, I don't know what standards are necessary, regardless of who's renting it or using it. But I don't think it's as low as the proponents think it is.
We haven't had any kind of specific discussion of that. I'm not sure if it amounts to wishful thinking, frankly, that somehow the number is going to be dramatically lower. Is it 5 million? Is it 4.5 million? Is it 4 million? It's not going to be magically 200,000. I don't know why we would dismiss the Habib report or redo it.
Okay.
Seth, your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, honestly. The number one thing that concerns me about, I don't know how you would proceed with that. I don't, without any kind of clear cut idea what would we be even asked for. I don't know how you would make that happen. the one thing that I want to avoid and have wanted to avoid this whole time is if we don't, I don't even know how to, I just don't want to stir up a hornet's nest, I guess is the clearest way to put it when it comes to when and if we do demolish the building, that we not have to face this as a, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say, right? I
Yeah.
want to make sure that we have exhausted this. We have moved this to the extremity of what was reasonable, and then say, see, it wasn't reasonable. It isn't reasonable, and it wasn't that we took the most prudent course of action, which was the demolition of the building. So that being said, I don't know how we would approach. I mean, this man. So if we're going to retain him, and he's going to charge us at a flat rate of $75 an hour, and at what he won't have to be he'll be a contract employee, or he'll not be an employee of the fire district,
No,
obviously,
no,
directly.
a
No.
consultant.
And so he'll have to craft some kind of contract for us to negotiate with him. And I mean, on the outside, so say for instance, if he would spend, we're going to have, so he prepares the document, which then we are going to put out there for the various architectural firms to respond to. What do you think that would cost? I mean, if he spent a 40-hour work week on such a thing, it would be what, $3,000
I don't think it's gonna cost that much. I'm pretty sure.
roughly?
it's
But I
somewhere-
guess what I'm trying to say is that we'll have him and we'll be able to use him for different purposes as time goes by. If the situation changes, if anything, however and then imagine he'll continue into the future in this capacity with us.
Do you have a sense, Fran, what the total cost of this would be? Has he given you it's 3,000, it's 8,000, it's 20,000,
No,
anything like that?
but I suspect there's probably a template involved that he just needs to basically fill in with the required information. But I don't know that. But to Seth's concern, Seth, the people that want to keep building have no business plan. That's it. They have no business plan. They have no guaranteed money to do anything with the building. If you read what they say on their website, it gets down to the really important sentence where they say, eventually, we will have enough.
Right. And how and when is eventually? 5
Yeah.
years from now?
Yeah.
Never. 4
And in the
years of negotiating and
meantime-
then no outcome.
We have people, breaking windows and tearing air
Right.
conditioning machines off the school. So,
No, I understand that. And I do. And I just just for the sake of not having to have this haunt us for an indeterminate amount of time, in both ways, whether
Yeah.
people perceive that we act too quickly or that we then dither to the point where things become even worse with the building, and then it's still sitting there, and we've spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, and then we just end up in the same place, which is with no building there at all, which is what we should just probably do right off the bat.
well, if you want to mull this over between now and whatever our next meeting is.
No, this is fine. For me personally, this is fine with me. I think that, how would we would vote to request a proposal from this man. Or we'll just vote to hire him, but we don't know the terms of his contract or any of that stuff, right?
No, right.
So we would be empowering you to speak with him about those things specifically
Yes.
if we vote on it.
Or,
I
I can ask him to join us via Zoom at our next meeting.
Right. That sounds reasonable to me. I have no issue with that.
That sounds reasonable to me. I mean,
Okay.
depending on the amount of money, it might be worth having him do this, even if we ultimately did not decide to move forward with demolishing the school. Although, that's the way we are strongly leaning.
Right.
The other part, a request for proposal as to whether this should be or could possibly be utilized in part for the fire department. I think, assuming that we're going to have an answer as to High Street at the end of January, that we can probably wait until January to get that assessment. I
I
don't.
think as it pertains to the, oh, go on. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
I was just going to say it seems like the decision of the issues relating to Katuitt School itself and the issue of, does the fire district need a new firehouse and when and where and how much are kind of getting tangled up a little bit, which.
And that's what I was going to say, is that I think that we should disavow the whole concept of our participation in any study, search, however that whatever the fire department chooses to do, the fire commissioners choose to do. I think that we should not, as a body, be deliberating on anything RE the fire service and the use of that any space for any purpose for the fire, the actual fire service. You know what I mean? Because if we're going to be involved, it's going to be parallel. It's just going to be. I don't think that it would be, and I don't know that it would be productive for us to do it. And it's not even within our purview, I think, to do it in tandem with them. Even if we had joint meetings and that sort of thing, because I think this is really something that they should own, because they can do it absent of our consent or recommendation.
That you know what, Seth, I would be inclined to agree with you. The only problem, of course, is the timing. They seem interested in doing this sequentially. That is, does High Street work? And then depending on the answer to that, moving on to could the Katuitt School property possibly work, which, you're.
Right. And in a way that's tying us to the
A
same.
lot of commentary about dithering.
Yeah,
Right. Well,
To use your
that's what I'm
word.
talking about. That we'll be just tied to the same, a different wagon with the same in
No,
the same direction. If we're going to just hang on to the building while however much of this occurs, and then could it be a year from now? Could it be, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I completely agree with you. I think if they want an assessment of that building for use as a fire station, then it's their responsibility to do that assessment. I don't think it's the Prudential Committee's responsibility to do that.
I guess then we can't very well go and tear it down. But I think that it's maybe we'll have more information. They have the stage one of their thing complete. Whether I mean, no, well, depending on what the definition of phase one is, I guess ultimately, but that it seems it would be a dead letter that they would use the building in any capacity. It's more the ground that we're talking about, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that if they're going to engage, if it's going to be a $15 million process, I can't imagine that it would make any sense to leave any aspect of that building in place.
Nor can I, but there seems to be at least some sentiment that among the fire commissioners that perhaps it could. If as we talk through this, that probably makes sense to make this a fire department issue, but we should probably be moving along the parallel track, moving forward with Mr. Watkins on figuring out the process of how we get requests for proposals for architectural firms and then demolitions. I'm happy to spend some money moving forward on that track with the idea that subject to some 11th hour issue with the fire department, that's what we're leaning towards doing.
I think that's reasonable.
I agree. And in this man or this person might have other uses for us as time goes by, that we need a person like this in our circle. You know what I mean? And the fire district
Yeah.
needs access to somebody with these skills.
And Fran, if he has some kind of draft contract he would like to propose and can give us some kind of idea as to the range of price, we could have a much more substantial conversation at our next Prudential Committee meeting. Substantial in the sense we could move it along, if
Okay.
it all sounds okay.
All right, I will ask him that. And I'll ask him to join us and see if he can do that.
When's our next Prudential Committee meeting?
Well, it's not gonna be the fourth Monday because that's
It's Christmas, right?
That's Christmas. So we could try for the 18th.
I think I will be out of town on the 18th. Very rare that I am, but I will be that day. But I might be back by then if it's Monday.
I'm away from the ability to host a meeting for you, but someone else might be able to do that on that day.
Okay. All right. Scratch that. What about, like the 21st of December?
I'm on vacation all that week, but
All that-
maybe Jen or the fire chief or someone could host it for you.
Or,
I will be at the town council on the 21st.
that's right.
think.
Okay. What about the 27th?
I'm gonna be out of the
I have
country on
nothing.
the 27th.
You'll be
Okay.
out of the country. We're all so busy. Look at all kinds of fun
So
things.
why don't we call this our December meeting? And, you know.
I would like to move forward with this, speaking with this guy, if we can, Mr. Watkins, if we possibly can. Did we decide the 18th and 19th and 20th were all no good?
Well, we need to get, Lisa won't be here, so we'll need to get either Jennifer or the chief to be our Zoom master. So let me,
I can definitely do the 18th or the 19th. If I'm sure the chief
I
would,
thought you were gonna be out of town, you said.
well, but I mean, I will be returning. So, and if it's all Zoom, I can always just do it. I could do it on my cell phone and
Okay,
driving down the road if I had to.
all right, we'll try for the 19th. And I will contact the chief and Jennifer and go from there. Okay, so the last
Sounds
thing
good.
is, Ray sent us a note about the town assessor request. And I'm thoroughly confused about this.
Me too.
Yes.
So I thought that 34,293 number sounds awfully familiar, like the number that's disputed that they want more from last year.
No,
No?
I don't think so. I don't think it's related to that. The number was determined by comparing the initial balance with the total of taxes outstanding and open or pending tax cases. And that the $86,000. And so the 34,000 is simply a forced number from where we initially ended up to getting us to 86,000. The way Lane presented it to me was that when I objected to it, he said, well, take it up with DOR. This is a DOR requirement. So when I
What's
took it
DOR?
to
Department
Department
of
of
Revenue.
Revenue,
That's what I thought. Okay.
the Department of Revenue basically approves our financial statements. So when I contacted my person at DOR and asked him what the change was and why, he said, there's been no change. As far as DOR is concerned, and he's concerned, as long as you're providing more than your 5-year average historical usage, they view it as acceptable. And so anything north of $10,000 would have been acceptable to DOR. So what I am saying is that I really don't think it will be productive to get into a contest with Lane about what DOR said and what they didn't say. It could be that Lane had a conversation with someone else in DOR, and we'll go back and forth. My recommendation is that we view this as simply another reserve that we can call on when we need the funds for anything related to the school project. Because at the end of the day, it is the Prudential Committee that determines how much of a abatement reserve they're comfortable with. So if we view it as excessive, the Prudential Committee would send a letter to the assessor indicating what level they want and how much they want released. And usually, almost always, that request is approved. So what I'm recommending is, rather than getting into a contest currently with the assessor about who said what, we accept the fact that we're going to put $34,000 into a reserve that we can recover at a point probably this coming year when we need the money for school project or demolition.
So Ray, can you start at the very basics and walk us through, or at least me through, what the abatement reserve is and what it does?
Okay. The abatement reserve is a fund, and I'm going to use that term in not the accounting sense. It is a reserve created to absorb abatements issued to taxpayers for mistakes in the appraisal, for overpayments, for reductions in the appraisal as determined by the tax court. Someone disagrees with their valuation, they go to the tax court, they get a judgment that lowers the valuation. They have paid their taxes already, so they're due for a refund. That's what the abatement reserve is for.
Okay, and am I right that our previous abatement reserve has been, or at least our 5-year experience rate is $9,394? And
Yes.
you would like us to increase it to $68,000?
86.
34,293 plus 34,000.
I'm sorry, I can't remember what the initial proposal that when they fill out the tax recap with all the valuations included in that process is a proposed addition to the abatement reserve.
So it would be, we'd have 35, or would that be 40,000 total? I have 34, increased by 34,293.
So the
And that would
reserve,
be
I'm sorry, go
in
ahead, sir.
addition, no, that would be in addition to the 9,394. So it would be a total of 43 and
Like 52.
change.
You start off with a balance as of the end of June.
Yeah.
Then you add the annual provision for fiscal 24. The initial one proposed was, I believe, and I don't have that number in front of me. I'd have to go into my computer and pull it up. Um, I believe the initial one, the increase was 34. And no, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have that number.
Didn't you say that this would make a total of $86,000 because
That's correct.
so we already have an existing fund for tax abatements, tax cases, tax court of $50,000, give or take?
Give or take, absolutely. So we started off with 50. Normally we would add somewhere north of 10,000 or the 9,600 to come to something that would have 52, let's call it 10, 62, but he wants to add that 34 more or 24
Right.
more
And it just,
get it to the 86,000 that equals the amount of taxes unpaid at the end of last year, plus the few tax cases that are pending. Am I just confusing you, or is that?
no, I mean, not me. I understand it.
Yeah.
It's odd that he would choose to do this. It was like, it's to such a degree, I guess, all of a sudden and say, well,
Yeah. And
considering we have
you know,
this whole other situation of the misappropriated funds where we're having, what was it, one year's 50 something thousand, 1 year's 30 something thousand, where the payments are off kilter and then we end up having to pay. But abatements, those are technically not abatements, obviously, or findings,
Refunds.
but accounting errors worded as refunds, but are they really refunds? Because
They claim they
that
are.
was had to do with a whole accounting issue, as right, the money that was not getting allocated properly between what we were giving them and what we owe them, I mean the town. It's
Yeah,
just bizarre.
they
And I maybe
claim that
because I
they're-
don't
They
understand
claim
this.
they're refunds. They stick to that story, even in the meeting. Um, Gave me
So our reserve wasn't consumed by those refunds?
No.
We still have money
no, we pay
that
that,
would have taken us,
we pay that without hitting the refunds, without hitting,
right,
excuse me. Sure. We pay
the
that
abatement
direct.
fund.
So on
And
that,
in your email, it said requested or directed. Are we requested or are we directed to
We're
do
directed,
that?
we're directed by the town assessor.
Right.
Yeah.
and why didn't this come up in his presentation to us about 2 weeks ago?
No answer.
That is, you don't have an answer or he doesn't have an answer.
He never responded.
so gentlemen,
His response was that it was a DOR requirement. That was his response to my inquiry or my challenge. You know, why and why now?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to throw you under the bus, Ray, but maybe you can tell him the Prudential Committee is not going to do this unless we have a better explanation.
yeah, I don't think it's worth getting into that battle with the town assessor's office,
No, I don't.
tax office.
I really don't. It's for some reason, and I don't know the reason why, Lane has made a point of doing this. He did it at West Barnstable and he did it here. I don't know if he's done it with the other districts. The other districts had no issue with the refunds, despite the fact that they paid substantially more than we did. So it could be that this just becomes a non-issue for the other guys.
Possible.
I think if we get into a contest with him, it is not going to be one that we're going to win. And it's only going to create ill will.
I agree.
I think it'd be far better to say yes, and then 4 or 5 months from now, or a year from now, we send them a letter that says, we've got too much in the reserve and we want this much back.
When we say we want this much back, because they will have collected that.
No, it's not, no one collects it. We put a reserve on our books. And when we ask for it back, we simply reduce that reserve and add it to our fund balance. Or if we appropriate it, as I've done in other places, if we appropriate it for a project, it doesn't go into fund balance. It becomes funds set aside for that purpose. For example, some aspect of the school project.
So I want to make this even a little bit more complicated, but I believe things increasing the abatement reserve by $34,293 is going to increase the tax rate from $1.21 to $1.23. Is that correct, Ray? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm pretty sure that we have to have another tax rate hearing to do
No,
that.
no,
Sure?
I'm quite sure, because all you voted on at the tax classification meeting is a single rate. You didn't vote on the specific rate.
Okay.
You voted on whether to have a single
Yeah.
rate or not.
Great. That's good news. Okay. And did you have something else, Mark, you wanted to say about the fire station?
No,
No? Okay. Is there any public comment?
There was a hand raised by Joanne Massaro, which is now down, but Penny Levert has her hand raised. Penny, can you unmute?
Hi, Penny.
Am I on? Hi, I'm curious, this $1 million, if we demolish the building, how is this going to be financed?
So it'll be a bond.
It'll be a bond?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to know that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. And I'll be in
So,
contact. Go ahead, Seth.
oh, I said so moved.
For a second,
second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I'll be in contact about a date for a meeting later in the month.